All right, I hope everybody is having a wonderful day. I will be delivering the topic zero-based budgeting for sustainable living. Um, and basically, this is one tool for budgeting on how we can manage our money. There are many, many other tools that you can do to manage your money, but today I'm just going to be sharing on zero-based budgeting for sustainable living. But before I start, I have a question for everybody. And that question is this: if you work for a company where you manage their money, the money of the company, the way you manage your money now, would you fire you? Okay, so you have two choices of emojis. They're at the bottom over there. They're very similar to one another. Okay, open for interpretation. So if you can answer with one of those, oh, I would promote me. Oh my goodness, Sophia. So, right. So again, if you work for a company where you manage their finances the way you manage your finances right now, would you fire you? Okay, yes. I'm used to cutting costs. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So the reason why I'm asking this question is I think a lot of people are like, okay, Alicia, we're in an eco webinar. Why are we talking about a company? It's not related at all. But actually, I think a lot of us can agree that a company needs a very, very stable foundation in terms of financial, because if the company is spending a lot of money on a lot of things and borrowing a lot of money from different places, end up the company normally would just go into bankruptcy. And a company needs a strong foundation in a lot of aspects, hence why a lot of companies has accounting and tax consultant and all of these things. Why are we thinking of our lives and our daily life as a company? We need to start thinking that we are worth more than what we're thinking, so that we can take better care of ourselves, of the community and the planet than we have ever been. And this is why budgeting is very important. It's a very important aspect to running the company, running our lives. And if you're thinking of a house, we have a very big roof, but very small pillars of the house is not going to stay for very long. And this is why I'm doing this presentation, so that you can start treating your life, treating your money as a part of a company that you're running, so that you can be more sustainable. So in this presentation, I will be walking you guys through all of these topics, right? So we have why budgeting, we have what is zero-based budgeting, we have the benefits of zero-based budgeting. I will be showing you step-by-steps how to, the cash envelope system, save, enjoy, give, and I think that's one of the very important one we have. And then at the end, we will have a question and answer session. But before all of that, I just wanted to share something about me, because I wasn't always aware of sustainability or aware of financial sustainability. As Donna has mentioned, I graduated from a sustainable school called the Green School. And there I was learning about sustainability, but then again, I was very shallow. I was financially sustainable in my teenage years because I had the opportunity to work during high school, and that money is what I used to buy a one-way flight ticket to Canada to continue my study. What basically happened is I worked for a whole year And I went to Canada with a bag and courage, because my family doesn't come from a very wealthy family. They have enough, but they could not send me through college. But I went to university with scholarship, but I had to pay for my own living expenses, rent, and everything. So I literally just bought one-way ticket from Bali to Canada with my whole year salary of me playing music at cafes and restaurants in Bali, which is wild. And at that time, I wasn't aware of budgeting at all. I was just kind of like, okay, I have money, I'm spending it. When I was in Canada, I learned the biggest lessons of my life. There were one time when, even though I was in scholarship, I still have to be working to be able to pay for my food, for my books. And it was a very overwhelming moment for a 19-year-old, because I was all alone. And I had to wake up in the morning. If I have a class in the morning, then I go to class. And when I'm done with class, I have to ride my bicycle. Not even mine. I have to borrow a bicycle from my friend because I cannot afford a bicycle. And to down the hill to work at a retail shop. And I would do that for months and months and months. And there are times when, because I did not manage my money well, I was not able to pay for my living expenses at the board anymore. So I have to work outside, or I have to rent outside of the university land. So what I decided to do is I went to the university and I say, is it okay that I take one block off so that I can work and to pay for another block? And that's what I would do. I would not go to school for 1 month just to work so that I can take that money from 1 month so that I can pay for 1 month of school. And that happened for months and months. And it was very overwhelming. There were one time when I had no money for food. I would just be going around my room looking for tiny little coins so that I can have like around $3 in Canadian dollar. And that money, I bought a box of cookies that would last me for 2 days until my next salary comes out. And of course, I'm not saying this to be, oh my God, poor her, but I'm just saying it taught me a big lesson. If I had known how to manage my money, I would not be in that position. If I had known how to manage my money, I would not have such a stressed mind of working and playing and, trying to be a 19-year-old. It wasn't easy. And that bicycle over there is one of the biggest teacher for me, because as I was mentioning, that bicycle wasn't even mine, it was my friend's bicycle. But I was at such a low point of my life when I rode my bicycle from the place that I stayed at to my workplace. Every pedal that I take, I count all of my blessings. I said, I'm so thankful that I have this bike. I'm so thankful that I have air. I'm so thankful that I have a job. I had to do that so that I don't feel so low. And a lot of this stress comes from financial money. And there was a time that I cannot make payments anymore for my school and my living. And I had two choices: stay for 1 more month of university or book a flight ticket to Bali and finish the university. And I made the tough decision to book the one-way ticket to come back to Bali and did not finish my university. And again, if I knew how to manage my money well, I wouldn't have to make such a tough decision. And this is why I want to stress that budgeting is so important, and making sure that you have the power of choice by knowing what to come, or expecting emergencies is very important. And I wrote at the bottom, it says, do what you can with what you have where you are. So no matter where you are in your financial journey or income per se, you can do budgeting. You don't need to be a multi-million dollar company to do budgeting or have accounting. Be your own accounting, and see what happens. So why budgeting? So we have talked about that, right? So budgeting gives you clarity of purpose. So when you budgeting, when you have a sustainable goals, you would be able to focus on those. It will lead you to take the steps that you need with the budgeting. It's a tool. I think a lot of people have a misconception about money. A lot of people use this money as a way to bring happiness or buy something so that it makes you happy. Or if you're on a sustainable journey, you know, you see a lot of influencers doing zero waste living and buying all these cool jars, or, you know, the most expensive bamboo toothbrush. And it doesn't have to be like that. When you take a look at your budgeting, then you will see what is the needs and the priorities, and then you work from there. If you cannot afford those cool jars, you will start to think about, okay, what other things can I do? So it really gives you a clarity of purpose. And another one is prioritize needs over wants, meaning that when you're doing budgeting, you will have to or forced to think about what you need first before of your wants, so that it gives you, on the third why budgeting, it gives you security and stress-free, because it ensures you that you always have enough money for the things that you need and that are important to you. I wouldn't have to be searching for little coins to buy cookies, because I already planned ahead of time that I will be eating this month, right? So I should be thinking that I will be eating. So it gives you a stress-free life, because, okay, just think of it as if, okay, you have dinner at 7, and then you are planning to make a baked potato, but the baked potato needs to be baked for 1 hour. And then it's almost 7 and you haven't even put the potato in the oven, right? But if you have put the potato in the oven an hour before it has to be ready, you wouldn't be so stressed out about it. And that's what the budgeting does. The budgeting plan does, is that when you already set aside money for eating, for rent, and all these things, you don't even have to think about that. So you can focus on what's really important. Okay, sorry, I have a cough. And budgeting gives you the freedom of choice. So when you already take care of your needs, you know that you will be eating, that you will know that you have a roof over your head, you have utilities and all these things, then you can start sourcing all of your energy towards something that really matters. You don't even have to think about it anymore. And the freedom of choice also gives you the power to be, okay, if there is an emergency, for example, somebody's sick, you don't, if you do budgeting right, you can make the choice to be right by that person's side when they are sick, instead of, oh my God, because that person is sick, I have to work harder so that I can help cover the costs and things like that. But if you do budgeting right, you will be able to prioritize what truly matters to you. It gives you the freedom of choice. Budgeting does not make you rich, but it tells your money where to go. And if you do it right, it will make you feel rich, richer than when you started, because you have so much more time, so much more headspace, stress-free, and you can give more of you to something else. Fill your own cup first, right? Take care of your own and then take care of other. And that's what I learned also in my university years. I can't take care of other people. I can't be of service to other people if I don't take care of myself first. So budgeting gives you the freedom of choice. So a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. I think a lot of people have been there, you know, at the end of the month, and they're like, oh my God, where's all of my money? You know, like I had this much at the beginning, or even at the beginning of the month, you get your salary and being like, okay, I can buy this and that and this and that. And then in the middle of the month, you're already like, oh, I can't go out anymore because you don't have no money. So budgeting is telling your money where to go, and you would know where it went, where at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end of the month. So what is zero-based budgeting? So we're getting into that. So zero-based budgeting means that every dollar of your income that is coming in will be accounted for in the budget, be it for savings or paying your bills, or if you have debt, it's debt payment or loans or groceries, eating out, all of them will be given a name. You will name your dollar. The idea is that every month your budget will go into zero. Not saying that you're going to spend it all, but I'm just saying you will give them a purpose. All of your dollar will be given a purpose. That is what zero-based budgeting is. And zero-based budgeting is not a new thing, not a woo thing. It's like, oh gosh, like what is zero-based budgeting? I didn't come up with it. It was founded in 1960s by Peter Pyer. And it was originally designed to be used in the government system. And it was used in the government system for a while, and then it was changed to something else. But then it got popularized nowadays for the personal finances. But it is being used in companies, organizations, governments, family, and personal budgeting. And normally what is being done is in a company, for example, the top part will be giving budgets for each individual departments, and that individual departments will then have to distribute it into whatever expenses that they will need. But the thing about zero-based budgeting is that it encourages communications, meaning that they have to justify each and every single expenses until the budget comes out. So it's very cool that it's being used everywhere. But today we're going to be talking about personal or even family budgeting. So what are the benefits? So before we were talking about what are the benefits? When you do this budgeting, be ready to feel three things: purposeful, mindful, powerful. Why these three things? Is because when you write down when or where you're going to spend your money or what purpose it is, it gives you a clear focus. You know that this is the amount of money that is going to be for this, and this is going to be for that, and all of these things. And it's mindful. It's an awareness practice for you also, because it forces you to consider and justify each expenses. If you think that you need a certain thing for the next month, you have to justify yourself. Do you need it? Do you need it? So you keep always asking yourself, do I need it? Is this something that is good? And if you're in that sustainable zone, then is this for the best of me or the planet and the community? So you always have to ask yourself in that kind of ways. And you will feel powerful because you are in control. This is your tool. Instead of your tool controlling you, you are controlling your tool. This is the business that I'm going to support with this money. This is where I'm going to put this money so that they can use it in the benefit to the planet or something like that, right? So you will have the power when you do this zero-based budgeting or budgeting in general, okay? So purposeful, mindful, and powerful. So how do we do zero-based budgeting? So I am going to guide you through 4 steps of zero-based budgeting. Actually, there's the like step 0, which is your goal. So you have to kind of decide, you know, what is the goal of doing budgeting, right? So you do that on your own personal things, but I'm going to do the technical stuff. 4 steps on to do zero-based budgeting. The first one is decide how do you want to plan yours. I will go into details on that. Step 2 is identify your expenses in categories. Step 3, allocate your income until balance to 0. I was talking about zero-based budgeting. That is step 3. And then step 4 is track your expenses along the way. And then you do that all over again, depending on how you want to plan it. All right. So these are the steps on how you can start your zero-based budgeting. Let's get into them into more detail. So step 1 is decide how you want to plan out your budgeting. So a lot of people get paid once a month, and sometimes people get paid 2 times a month or even 3 times a month or every week, right? So depending on your situation, you may want to do your budgeting once a month, or you do your budgeting based on your paycheck. Example, on monthly basis. If you get paid on the 1st of the month, can you see my cursor actually? Yeah, okay, there you go. So if you get paid on the 1st of the month, then you will use that one income to cover all of the costs that needs to be covered that whole month. That is monthly. So all of these bills that are in purple will be paid with that one income, or I also call income roundup, because sometimes people get paychecks, like 4 paychecks per month, and they just kind of round them up from last month into the beginning of the month, and they're doing that for one whole month. So that is the example of a monthly, or if you're a paycheck person. So I put over here, you get paid on the 1st and the 15th. So you may want to do 2 budgeting plans for this month. So the one paycheck on the 1st, for example, will be responsible to cover the cost until the next paycheck period, meaning that the bills that needs to be paid on the 3rd and the bills that needs to be paid on the 12th needs to come from the paycheck on the 1st, and so on. So that is the paycheck. So you need to decide how you wanted to do your budgeting. Just kind of think in your mind, you know, okay, I have this payment at the beginning of the month. That's what I'm going to do the whole month. Or because I get paid 2 times a month, that it will be the paycheck. So you decide that. Once you have done that, step 2 is you need to identify your expenses and put them into categories. And I will be helping you with that. There are 3 main categories that are usually used in zero-based budgeting. The first one is fixed expenses. The second one is variable expenses. And the third one is sinking funds. But before we get into those, what I think will be easiest for you guys to do is to just get like a piece of paper, right? A piece of paper and a pen, and then you just write down all of your expenses. You know, this month, okay, what did I buy? Is it groceries? Or I had to buy diapers, or I have to pay for the school fees and everything. Just kind of list all of them in a single page. So it's still everywhere, like this paper clip, right? So, and then you're gonna put them into categories, and these are the categories. And I will be asking you guys to kind of guess what would be included within these expenses. So fixed expenses is the expenses in your budget that you can expect to stay the same or close to it over time. So I would like for you guys to go into the chat box to let me know what sort of expenses that you can expect every month, and that it probably stays the same each month. Any guesses? I'm looking at the chat box. What kind of payment, maybe? Groceries, rent, health insurance, okay. Any other guesses? Electricity bill, water bill, okay. House, health, water, okay, wonderful. So I would say things like groceries and electricity bills, water bill, it really depends, because I think groceries fluctuates quite a lot. Fixed expenses is basically, it normally doesn't fluctuate. So a bill would, like rent would be one of it. Normally, if you're paying rent monthly, it's probably the same amount every month, and it stays the same for the next month, or close to the same on the next month. And normally we can put a date on it. So here are examples of fixed expenses. So rent or mortgage payments, and normally you can put a date on it. I have to pay my rent on this time of the month, right? So insurance normally stays the same. And these are like things that we have to cover, right? Health insurance or car insurance if you have a house, damage insurance, I don't even know. I don't have a house. I pay rent. If you pay your electricity bill and the electricity bill stays the same, then it probably will be in the fixed expenses, but normally it fluctuates depending on how much electricity uses. So it will be in another category. But childcare expenses, like if you're a mom and you have to pay school fees for your children, normally every month it stays the same. Student loans or debt payment, or any kind of debt payment, normally it stays the same. You have a minimum amount to pay. Subscriptions, I think a lot of people don't really think about that. You pay subscriptions for Netflix or something like that. And taxes, sometimes I know that we pay taxes like once a year or something, but the taxes, sometimes we can save for the taxes. So if we take a look at the taxes from the last year, we can divide that into 12 months, and we just save that much every month until the next tax period that we have to pay. And investment and savings, and a lot of people put a certain amount of money every month for saving and investment. So that's fixed expenses. And normally you can put a date to it. This is like, it's like the essential thing. Put a roof over your head. If your rent doesn't include electricity or water, the water and electricity is a little bit tricky because it fluctuates a lot. So I would normally put it in variable expenses, but health insurance stays the same, subscription stays the same. So the one that is essential and stays the same goes into the fixed expenses category. I will give you examples later, okay? So variable expenses. So these expenses may occur monthly, but the amount you pay could fluctuate. And you give examples. There is the water and all these things, right? So these are the examples of variable expenses. So gas or water bills, right? There is vehicle gas. If you have a car or motorbike, you have to put gas money on there. Groceries, pet food, if you have dogs or cats, clothing, household, you need to buy a toothbrush. That's where the money is going to come from. personal expenses. So personal expenses for me, it's more of like, oh, if I need to buy makeup or something, right? So that would come from my personal expenses. Phone bills. It really depends actually. Sometimes you pay the same amount every month to a provider. Here in Indonesia, we kind of pay depending on how much we want to put inside of our phone. So I put that into variable expenses. If that stays the same for you, then you probably want to put that into fixed expenses. And then I put in italic, eat out, entertainment, hobbies, recreation, mini emergency, because it really depends. I don't normally put them in variable expenses. I put them in sinking funds, but variable expenses could include eat out if you do regularly eat out. I don't encourage that. I think it's cheaper, much healthier to eat at home, but you can put eat out under variable expenses. Or if you go to the gym, for example, then that could go under variable expenses, right? So that would go under variable expenses. And I always do mini emergency under variable expenses, because in case you didn't budget enough for your grocery money, the mini emergency comes handy because it comes to the rescue. Okay, I don't have enough money for emergency. I messed up with my budgeting, but at least the mini emergency is there to buffer you until the end of the next month, the end of the month, so that you can still eat or something like that, right? So that's variable expenses. And sinking funds, the traditional definition of sinking funds is that it's a funds that formed by periodically setting aside money for gradual payment of debt or replacement of wasting asset. But in this presentation, I'm going to redefine what sinking fund is. So the sinking funds that I follow is that it is in preparation for the upcoming events along the line. So that may include something like health. If you do vitamins and everything every month, then maybe you want to put that into variable expenses. But I buy vitamins maybe once every 3 months, because I buy the big one and it's like, it lasts me for 90 days, for example, right? So I put money in sinking funds, health money in sinking funds, because I buy that every 3 months. So I can save each month so to buy that medicine or that medication, right? So this is kind of like a way to save money little by little in sinking funds, like vet, for example. Like I don't need to bring my dogs every time to the vet, but when Cherry, one of our dogs, got poisoned, we had to go to the vet. That was an emergency, and we had money in our envelope for vet specifically, and that paid for all of her medical bills. We don't even have to be thinking about, oh my gosh, like, where is the money is gonna coming from? We have been saving in the vet category. And you kind of have to think about what needs to happen. Every year I have to put my car into, change the oil of my car. That is vehicle maintenance. It doesn't happen every month, but you can save for that ahead of time. Adventure, right? So if you like to go on an adventure and things like that, sometimes people go on a trip and then they already run out of the money. But if you already plan ahead of time and you already save for adventure or already budget for adventure, you can use that money without any worries. Giving, and we will talk more about giving later, but I always encourage everybody to have a category of giving in their budget, because when you have a power in your hand, one of the very best things that you can do is to share that with others. So giving is one of the most important things you can put into your budgeting. Birthdays. If you have children, I know Jessica has many children. They have birthdays. So you may want to be thinking about, okay, at this month and this month and this month, I should have this much money already saved in the birthday envelope, for example, right? So The sinking funds is very handy on that, because when the birthday comes, you don't even have to think about, oh, what do I want to get or something like that. You already have the money. You just have to think about what to get for them, right? Christmas, right? Christmas presents. Again, a lot of people, I think, kind of like, oh my God, what do I have to give for, during the Christmas present in the month of December. A lot of people use so much money in the month of December, but if you already planned since January, you don't even have to think about it, right? So you already saved from January. DIY gifts, that's true. So, and trip to Bali or education or wedding. So basically, these are kind of your savings, but you put into category. It is if you have some leftovers from your fixed expenses and variable expenses, you put them into all these categories so that you can be prepared for what's to come. If you do have debt, for example, then that's your priority. And if you don't have savings, and I always encourage people to have savings, that's your priority. But if you already have savings, you feel secure on that, you don't have no debt, then sinking funds will be one of the greatest things that you can have so that you can be prepared for what's to come that you expect. Okay, sinking funds, we already talked a lot about that. So step 3, allocate your income until the balance is to 0. That's the zero-based budgeting. So now put on your glasses, right? Grab a paper or a pen. The way you do it is the total income minus total expenses equal to 0, null, nil, nada, nothing, right? So that's what the zero budgeting is. So you're going to give every single dollar a purpose. This is an example. Oops. So the budgeting plan can be as simple as this is. You're going to put your income at the very top of your list. Your income, this is how much money, put all of them on the table, right? This is how much money we're going to work with this month. Let's take a look into this. You're going to list all of your expenses in the category of fixed expenses, variable expenses, and sinking funds. You total them up, and then the income minus the total expenses, the balance should be 0. Okay. This is an example, and I'm using all of the categories. I have 21 categories in my budgeting. Let's say I have $1,000 as my income. I am putting under fixed expenses my rent, and the rent already includes water and gas and all these things, electricity. So I don't have to think about that, but rent is there. These are just kind of the numbers that I put in there. Parents, I do send money to my parents every month. Ever since the start of the pandemic, they lost their jobs and I have been providing for them. So I do send to parents. Health insurance number 1, insurance number 2, and then Canva subscriptions. I use that for work. So I also have that. So those are my fixed expenses. Normally, my fixed expenses stays in my bank account and they are auto payment, or I send out the money at a specific date. And the total of this one is 410. And then we move on to variable expenses. This is what I put in my variable expenses. This is real. I have it on paper. So water, in Indonesia, we do not drink water out of the tap. So we have to buy water. So I put money for my water. Cooking gas, we also have to buy every month. This like gallon, well, it was like a tube, a metal tube of things that I have to buy for cooking. I have to put money for that. I have to put money for groceries. We have 4 dogs, so we have to put money for dog foods, motorbike gas. We have to buy data. So our phone, I was mentioning about phone. I decide how much money I want to put for data, for internet, personal. So if I will if that month I wanted to buy a cosmetic, or I wanted to buy a certain type of clothing, or if I need something for personal things, it would be for personal, and then mini emergency is my buffer. Again, it's like a cushion, right? In case I what's in English? Bocor. Like if you have a bucket, this is your bucket, right? This is your like there's a leaking, right? Yeah, there's a leaking. The mini emergency is going to be the tape until that lasts you until the end of the month. So put the mini emergency. And then there is the sinking funds, and the sinking funds that I have on mine is health, bike maintenance, like I said, with the oil change, the brake, the tire and everything. Sometimes I have to, every month, every year we have to renew the paper, right? The paperwork. We did money for that, so I put that into my sinking funds. The vet, the household, if we need to buy new toothpaste, toothbrush, right? That comes out of household. We don't buy them every month because it's just me and my partner, but I plan ahead of time. Eat out and entertainment, I put it on sinking funds because I don't go out quite a lot. I cook at home. But if you do go out quite a lot, you probably wanted to put more money in there and put it in variable expenses. But I put it in my sinking funds. Adventure, and I always put money on giving. Either I give every month, or I just kind of save that money until a certain point to give. Or sometimes I just have like, little money that I can just give on the side of the road if I feel like I wanted to give. But the thing is, I already planned for that. You already plan to give. So when you see somebody that probably needs it the most, you can just give because you already planned for it. It makes you accountable. So on that, we put all the total expenses, and then we go back to the top, right? We already put the total income. For me, I put savings and emergency at the very top over here. So the total of expenses is 945. So the income minus the total expenses, there is still $55 left. I have no purpose of it. I don't really want to put it in any of the other sinking funds. So I'm going to put that into my savings or emergency funds. Some people like to have a certain amount of money to go into their savings. I like to just kind of see what I need, cover all the bases. And if I have leftover, that goes into my savings. And now I am focusing on making sure that I have emergency funds of 6 months living costs. So in case of any emergencies, I have money. So that goes into my saving, and then the balance goes to zero. That's zero-based budgeting. So that's basically what the budgeting plans would look like if you're doing the zero-based budgeting. Now you already make the budgeting, right? But what happens next? Number 4, it's you track all of your expenses along the way. And it does take some time to kind of think about, you have to kind of remember to track your expenses. But this way you will be aware of how much money has been used, how much money has been left in each category, and then you can better plan for the rest of the month. And this record will then help you adjust the next month's budget. If you are leaking last month, for example, on your groceries, then maybe next month you want to put a little bit more money into groceries, right? So you live and adjust. That's step 4. So it could be as simple as putting a date, a description of what you buy, and then there is the amount. So the date is important so that you can always go back to, or have I paid the rent, for example, right? And description could be, okay, rent payment for December, right? Or it could be vegetables at Pepito. It's a grocery store here. And or you can be as detailed as possible, like, oh, I bought 2 toothbrush or 3 potatoes. Like, you could do that. I know someone, my partner's father is an Excel master. When we wanted to sell a certain thing on eBay, we kind of have to figure out, okay, how much do we have to sell it? And he's like, oh, wait. And he pulled up his laptop and he went into 15 years ago. He had a record on how much that thing was bought 15 years ago. And if you're that kind of person, your props on you, you can do that. I'm not that, but that is just amazing. He tracks every little expenses. It's amazing. And then I put over here, fell on the sidewalk, stitches at a hospital. Again, things, life happens, right? So again, I put money from my health envelope to that. And then if I don't have enough money, I have my savings, my emergency monies, and I can use that. I don't even have to think anymore, right? So budgeting turns emergencies from a crisis into an inconvenience. Because sometimes a lot of people have an emergency and they're freaking out because, oh my God, it costs so much money. Where am I going to get the money? And they ended up being in debt to the bank or to families and friends, and put you in a very difficult situation. But if you're prepared for emergencies, because life has emergencies, it just turns a crisis into an inconvenience. And that's okay. So these are a few things that you can use to track your budgets. Pen and paper, cheap, easy, and simple. You can use your Excel if you're an Excel master, like my partner's father, or you can use an app like Moneyfy. Moneyfy, I think there is a free version. Me and my partner, we are using the pro version, so we pay actually a little bit on that to track all of our budgeting, and it's like very visual. So I could recommend that. So that's tracking your expenses. So we already have all of this, right? We already have our budgeting and everything, but we also have to put an effort into sticking to the budget, right? We can have leakage here and there. We're not perfect, but don't go over budget. That's like rule number 1 of budgeting. Don't go over budget. But if you do, rule number 2, adjust and refer to rule number 1. So again, we are living and learn. It is not something that you should feel like, oh my God, feel guilty for, because if used correctly, budgeting doesn't restrict you, but it empowers you. Okay, so yeah. Now we're already over time by 2 minutes, so hold on for a second. There is the cash envelope system, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I think this could be a really good additional tool to your budgeting plan. So the cash envelope system is basically a way to track exactly how much you have in each budget category, like and by doing that, is like its name, is having cash in hand inside of an envelope at home in the categories. Okay, and as you can see in the picture over there, there is an envelope with a name on it with just how much money. Like, so if I put in my budget paper $50 for health, I have an envelope that says health, and I'm going to put cash, and I'm going to say cash in that envelope, and that's where I have it. And I have an example of my envelope, and I'm going to share with you. Actually, I have 2 folders over here. This one is for variable expenses. Fixed expenses, I have it on my card. Variable expenses, sinking funds. Okay, not all of the categories I have as cash, but the reason why I like cash using cash, and I encourage people to use cash so much, is first, sustainability wise, it forces you to spend your money locally. You're supporting the local community and businesses and local businesses. Cash. It forces you to be disciplined, because whenever you open up your envelope, you know how much money left, because at the beginning of the month it's thick and now it's very thin, right? So you're like, okay, now I'm gonna have to like kind of push the brake a little bit. um and why I like cash is because it reaches a different pain receptor in your head. When you pay at the end, or the cashier, when you hand over that money, there is a certain type of pain that you experience by losing that money, in comparison to giving a card and you get the card back. It's the same amount of weight, but if you give away the money, you don't really get the money back. And that also helps you not to overspend. And another reason why I like cash envelopes system so much is because when it's gone, when the money is gone, instead of it's gone, like, you don't get it. Also, cash envelopes, what I normally do is I take all of the money that I wanted to be as cash at the beginning of the month, just one time. And then I don't touch ATM anything for the rest of the months. And it's easier for me to keep track, right? Because if it's on card, you don't really know how much money you have spent sometimes, but on cash, so I want to show you like how it looks like. I make it really pretty. So there's water, there's cooking gas, I have dog food over here, I have groceries, right? And then, like, what is this called? Motorbike gas. And then I have personal, this is and then there's my sinking fund. So you can be, fun about your money if you're really passionate about it, or you can simply just get an envelope, put the title in front of it, and that's how you put your, so yeah, so that's cash envelope system. Ask me questions. I think I just kind of like go over it, but basically it's great. It's great. Finally, the last slide is, I always encourage everyone to save, enjoy, and give with your money. And why save? I always strive, or like I always encourage people to strive to have at least 6 months of living expenses saved in case of emergencies. And I think a lot of people has learned this the hard way during the pandemic season, when they lost their jobs, because when they lost their livelihood or income each month, they have no more money for the next month. But if you buffer for at least 6 months with your emergency monies, you can take that 6 months to look for a new livelihood. I always encourage that. But if you're at this moment, I don't have that much money to be able to have 6 months living expenses, you can just save. At first, I always say $1,000 as first emergency. If you are in debt, you have debt and something like that, then that's your second priority. So $1,000 into the bank account emergency was, you don't touch it, nothing, nada, And then if you have debt, pay off your debt. And this is very important, because your debt is kind of like, you're always, every month and things like that. And if you do get into the situation of losing your job and you still have this debt, it makes it heavier, because you still have to think about food and everything, right? So always strive to save money, at least 6 months living expenses. And once you have done that, you can do whatever you want. You can save for a trip to Bali, or or you can save to buy this thing, or you can carbon offset, That's another thing, right? Sometimes we can even barely cover the offset because we could barely um, cover what we need, right? So save and invest, and we can talk. Invest is like um, another conversation, but I always encourage a diverse portfolio. You can have money saved into a bank, and you can have mutual funds, or if you're daring, you can have cryptocurrency. Right now it's a crash, but but yeah, anyway, save and invest. That's first. Enjoy. You've worked hard to earn the money that you own. So reward yourself by spending it on the things that you love and value most. Example, you can take yourself into a retreat or do yogas, right? If you're like me, you love plants. I use a lot of my money to buy plants or on my hobbies, or to get my nails done, or sometimes we don't always have to just think about all those necessities. You can enjoy your money. My partner likes to go on restaurants, so he uses his personal money to go to restaurants and eat really good foods, right? So enjoy your money, and then give. Let the way you live be the way you give. And I always encourage this very much, because when we have, it's always a good idea to get into the habit of giving, because when we are I want to say that we want to treat others the way we want to be treated. And if you are in their position, then you probably need a little bit of kindness. And giving could be in a form of donating to an organization, or if you saw somebody on the side of the road that you think could really use a little bit of help, that's what this giving is all about. And yeah, that's give. And you know what, this is a very good exercise if you have children, because of course children don't have any income, but they have their allowance, daily allowance and things like that. And you just have 3 little envelopes that when you give your money into your to your children, you tell them, okay, how are you gonna put your money into these 3 little things, right? If they see a toy, for example, that they wanted to buy, but they don't have no money about it, that's what the saving is for, right? Oh, you there's that toy that you really want, maybe you can start saving right now. So put it inside of your envelope, and then enjoy, right? And then there is the giving. So it actually teaches them to give and save and enjoy from an early age. It's a very good exercise, and most of the time they feel so proud when they can use the money that they have been saving to buy whatever it is that they have been wanting. So it's a very good exercise to save, enjoy, and give. All right. And that's it. I hope that helped. And I know we are 11 minutes over time. If you have any questions, just let me know. And this is how you can reach me. Just DM me at real.raw.me.
Ooh, wow, that's very inspiring and very, very nice presentation, I would say. And I think everyone feel the same. Everyone enjoy and love the tips and tricks, how you personally share you managing your budgeting. And that's very nice. I personally really love how you actually overcome, how you actually have this awareness through your personal journey. And the bicycle story is a good reflection how to overcome our fear of finance. So thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing this. I
Thank you.
totally love this now. And I think everyone agree on the chat. We can see like Jessica, Sophia, Cyrene, Natalie. Hi, Natalie. We haven't really say hi
Hi.
at first.
Hi.
So hi, Natalie. So even
Yes,
Philip, like this is very helpful, Alicia.
thank
So
you.
if we check, we actually have like
A few questions.
5 questions, few
Okay.
questions. If you don't mind, all we can have like another 15 minutes because few of them, Sophia, Jessica, and Sirin, has a lot of interest to know what is sinking cost. So Sophia asked here, so what is the difference between the variable cost and sinking funds? Are that the variable cost will happen monthly, although the amount might fluctuative, yes, but sinking costs might or might not happen or only so often. Same with Jessica, the differences between variable cost and sinking fund. And also Syrian, the sinking cost the same as sunken cost.
Okay. All right. So I think there's a lot of confusions with the sinking funds. The traditional way of understanding sinking funds is normally people kind of use that as like saving to pay debt. What I use it for is basically to prepare myself for what's coming. Right. So variable costs, this happens regularly. So groceries is a part of the variable cost because you have to eat every month. You have to buy groceries every month, but the price goes up and down, right? But eat out, if you do go out very often, then I would put it in variable expenses. For me, I don't go out so often. It's not my priority. So fixed expenses and variable expenses are normally the needs, right? What do I need? The sinking funds is kind of like, what do I want? Right? So I think that's one of the easiest way to kind of put it, right? So fixed expenses, variable, what do I need? Cover all the bases first. The sinking funds is kind of a thing. I have extra monies, right? Oh my God, I'm so rich, I have so extra monies. You're at that point where like, okay, I have extra monies, what do I do with it, right? I can prepare for my mom's birthday, or I can prepare for my partner's birthday. Oh, it's my dog's home, 1 year home, next month. So I can put that into my sinking funds so that I can be prepared. Or if I know that next year I want to go to somewhere, that's what my sinking funds is for. Okay. I hope that helps. Let me know if that's still. There you go. Yes, wants and needs. I should have said that at the beginning. Of course.
That's very good, Jessica. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
It's explained a lot. It's about wants and needs.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Because the budget always starts with what you need first, right? Make sure that all your needs are covered, and then you can start thinking about birthdays and Christmas and all these things. My children have a lot of wants. Then you just start listing on them, right? Listing on them, save little by little, and even include them within your process, and being like, you know what, I wrote this thing that you want, and I have this much left, and we still have this many months. So this, by this month, we should be able to buy the things that you want. And they're probably, just waiting for that, right? So include them within the process. Thank you
By
so
the
much.
way, thank you so much, Sophia, for joining us. Hope to see you again in our next event.
Thank you. Yes. Is there any other questions, perhaps?
Yes. So we still have 2 from Jessica. So is there a different envelope for different occasions or plan ahead?
Oh, you mean like, if I wanted to go to like, dinner date, or is it like eat out with friends? It really depends. Some people, there's 2 category of people: the lumper, or the people that likes to define everything. I'm kind of like the lumper, right? So I kind of lump things into one. So eat out and entertainment is one thing for me. So if I'm going outside of my house, eating somewhere or going into a mall, like that will be personal, and eat out and entertainment for me. So I'm lumping them together. So it really depends on you, whether you wanted to kind of like plan ahead. But if you already know that you're going to have a dinner date at a certain time and you want to have a certain amount of budget, you can do that too. But yeah, I think you kind of want to limit how many categories you want, because then it can get very overwhelming.
Yes.
Yeah, Shireen says rainy season
Yes.
money is important. Absolutely. Unexpected even losing jobs. It's something that nobody ever expects, but it's always good to have a buffer, because we live in a world where we need a certain amount of money to be able to live comfortably, right? And every one of us has different amount of money or living expenses every month. So I highly encourage everybody to kind of see the baseline of how much money do you actually need per month just for your needs, and times that by 6, and that's how much emergency monies or rainy day money that you need.
Right. Thank you so much. Okay, we still have one
Wonderful.
actually here from Jessica.
Yes.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yes, and the
We can
thing
actually
about
learn
that.
a lot.
All
Hello?
right.
Yeah?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, because Philip was mentioning about debt. There
Yes.
are, yeah, I know, and I think a lot of people are also in a very similar situation about debt, right? And there are actually ways on how you can get out of debt really quick and really fast, and using zero-based budgeting, but it does requires focus. But it's just making sure that first line of defense in terms of paying debt off is to not make any more debt. To just like close the leakage, right? Just close the leakage, make sure that you have enough for all of the things, and then you start working your way through. And if you need help in terms of how you can pay your debt fast, or well, effectively, you can reach out to me and I will be able to explain to you on how you can do that.
Probably like our financial system in Indonesia a bit different than other country, like in Singapore and Europe. But obviously, we agree with Philip that definitely to get rid of the debts.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that's why the budgeting is going to be really helpful in
Exactly.
terms of avoiding debt, because if we budget it right, we shouldn't be borrowing any more money from anywhere else. And for a while, it would feel like we have to give up a lot of things, especially if you already have debt, give up a lot of your wants just to get rid of debt. But as soon as you already get rid of debt, you will feel a lot more free to allocate your money into all the different things that you want, or prioritize, or vote for the things that you value or what matters most to you. All right. Any other
Right.
questions?
Yes, we have still one to go.
Okay.
Jessica, like, do you ever change your budget halfway through the month? Like, for example, you realize, oh, I need more money for grocery. So let's take out some from entertainment and put that into groceries. Or do
Yes.
you strictly follow the budget?
All right. So for the first month, like if this is the first time you've ever doing a budget or doing a zero-based budgeting, I always overshoot how much money I will put in my variable expenses, because groceries especially, think about how much you normally use, or like how much you normally put in, or how much you normally spend on groceries each month. 20% of that, add 20 more percent for that, because most of the time things happen, or it's Christmas and you have to cook a lot more for other people, right? For example, right? you overshoot it, and then next month you adjust. And of course, I do that all the time. If I run out of my grocery money, we sometimes take it out of household, because that's still kind of the same category, right? It's household, something that is going around the house, and buffer it. But then again, the mini emergency is there to do the first aid, right? Put the band-aid on it first, and then if that's still not enough, then there is something clearly not right with the budgeting at the beginning of the month. So it's okay that you're using, it's not something that's strict. You have to kind of live and learn. Don't be so harsh on yourself. Take it from another envelope, but then remember about that. Next month you do better.